Welcome back to Bass Gear Magazine. It's Dan Veal here once again, and in this review video we are looking at the EBS Magny 502 combo. We've got some great upgrade features to have a look at, so let's get on and listen to what the amplifier can do. As I scooch across to look at the 502, you can see that it is a 2x10 combo, two custom 10-inch neodymium speakers on board, and this new shell and new amplifier means that this one hand lift of a mere 15 kilos, this amplifier is more than capable of covering most of our on-stage needs. It's got plenty of punch and volume available. We'll have a look at the controls on the top of the amplifier, and later on we'll spin the amplifier around the back so we can have a look at the feature set, which will allow a certain amount of expandability from the 502 combo, which is going to make this a really useful tool to have in your backline. As per usual, as we'd expect on the EBS range, it's a super clear and simple layout. I like this, and between each of the models in the EBS range you're going to find the controls in the same place. Nice and neatly laid out, so even big bassists' hands are not going to knock any other controls by accident. 1/4 inch input on the left hand side here, 1 megohm input impedance. This is fantastic if you're running passive basses, active basses, or even instruments with passive piezo elements. Then this is already set up, ready to go to receive those signals. Gain control next to that, a massive amount of gain, so even if I'm using my 76p bass, which has a relatively low output, I know that I've got plenty of gain available, that I can really get a good strong signal into the amplifier and really drive these speakers up to full volume. In between those two controls, we have our first feature to have a look at. This is the character switch, which is a pre-shape equalizer. What this basically means, and I've called this the same for all of my EBS combo reviews because it's immediately what the button does in my mind. It's like a big cabinet sound. It provides a low end boost, a top end boost, and a cut in the mid-range. For all of those old schoolers, you'll know what I mean when I say the smiley-faced EQ, those 12-band graphic equalizers with a nice sort of scoop in the middle. This control kind of does that, but it has been sculpted specifically to create a sound which still remains clear, but full as well. Let's have a little listen to the control engaged and disengaged. Definitely some low B action there for you to appreciate what kind of low end we're getting from the combo. And of course, you're going to be listening to this on decent earphones or decent speakers, aren't you? You're not going to hear the real differences if you're listening on a small mobile speaker, mobile phone or laptop. It's just not going to cut it. We're talking bass here, aren't we? So make sure you're listening on the right kind of device. Next up in the features, we have a one knob compressor. This has been tailored specifically for bass guitar, and what I like about this control is even when it's maxed out, with the right settings, the bass still sounds nice and clear without being too squishy. I would like to use this control just to smooth out my peaks and just to control my dynamics, especially if I'm switching between slap bass or tapping or maybe some more softer harmonic style work. But I probably wouldn't use this as an effect. Maybe I'd use that on a separate pedal that I can switch in and out immediately. Let's have a little listen to what this does to my bass sound. Incidentally, I'm using a 5-string bass here with active electronics with quite a high output. So I should be able to dial in quite a nice bit of control from the compressor on board. This is the compressor switched off and the same playthrough that I had just a moment ago. This is the compressor just kicking in with this particular instrument. Let's max it out and see where it takes us. In the studio, things are starting to get a bit rattly here, and I can hear the compressor really sort of pulling down on my overall level. Now, of course, when we are trying to demonstrate a compressor, it's very, very difficult with the way that the media is handled when uploaded to YouTube, for example. So you might not be getting the full effect of what I can here in the studio here. To an extent, you're going to have to take my word for it. But the best thing you can do, obviously, is after watching this review, is go out and try the combo for yourself and see how it fits in with your style of music. I think you'll be able to feel what the compressor is doing actually in front of the combo itself. On to the equalizer section then. On Magni, it's a tried and tested setup that you'll find on the other Reedmar models in the EBS range. There is a huge amount of boost and cut available from each of the controls, so go easy. That said, it's nice to have that flexibility if I've got a troublesome stage that I'm trying to EQ for, or maybe an instrument with a very particularly, let's say, colourful tone that you need to dial in the sweet spots. It's really, really good that we've got this flexibility on the circuit. For the bass control, and I'll put the technical specifications on screen as well, as I have been throughout the review, we have a nice amount of low end depth. I've been concentrating on the low B string for my review so far, and with the bass control, we really, really want to hear that this amp can handle it. So even with a small amount of boost, I can get some really nice low end. Really feel the low end bloom, and this instrument has a nice bit of sustain to it, so it's really being able to carry through, and I can hear that in my output of the combo. This is what I want to hear from a good low B string, especially an amplifier that can actually reproduce it. Moving on to the mid-range, and this is absolutely what I want to see in pretty much every amplifier I ever touch, is the ability to sculpt on the least amount of controls as possible. This amplifier has a semi-parametric mid-range. What this means is, yes, I have cut and boost on a mid-range control, as we'd expect to see, but I can also dial in the exact frequency that I want to cut and boost. As I said before, this could be very useful for trying to get rid of muddiness on a particular type of stage, but also for a creative control. If I want more of a bloom in fingerstyle or some top end clarity, upper mid range. I can go and dial that in without having to reach for extra pedals. Let's have a little listen to a couple of examples. Let's scoop those mids out for a little bit of slap bass. Let's boost these same mid frequencies out for an extra bit of mid-range bloom. The mid-range control allows me to reach into the lower treble frequencies as well, and this is ideal should I want to play some nice clear harmonics. The same can be said for tap style. Tons and tons of clarity and depth to the sound as well. It's really going to cut through on stage. Again, this combo is really producing a nice wide range of clear frequencies. The treble control has a really nice voicing to it. And not only can I boost those frequencies, but even when I pull them away, I still get a nice rounded tone with a softer top end. Let's have a listen to that. The combo allows this mid-present sounding instrument to really still have its voice without creating too much of its own sound that it's impressing on the instrument, and that's something else I really like in an amplifier. I want to be able to hear what my bass actually sounds like, and the Magni is doing a great job of that. Finally, on the EQ section is a bright control. When this is dialed all the way down, it's as good as out of the circuit. And this gives us a high pass filter top end gain to add air and zing, almost a new string sound to my bass tone. I've dialed it round and I've gone for the front pickup on this instrument, and I'm going to play very delicately, and hopefully we can hear some of that nice top end zing coming through. This is absolutely brilliant if you're using the combo for other instruments such as the Chapman stick. Putting everything together, compression, some low end boost and that lovely top end sparkle from the onboard tweeter, we can get a truly gritty sound like this. Of course, I could, as always, sit here and dial in a whole myriad of different tones, but once again, I'll urge you to go and try this combo for yourself. There's a great deal of tones on board, even with the merest twist of a knob. You can see from my close-up that the volume control is all the way down. There is a lot of volume boost available from the 502 amplifier. Not only have we got a super amount of output available, information coming up on screen, the 502 model actually means that I can run this amplifier down to 2 ohms. Now, of course, we have some speakers on board already, but when we look at the back panel, you'll see that it is a extension speaker speak-on connector. Now, given that we've now got a minimum impedance of 2 ohms, this means that we can actually connect a wider range of cabinets to this combo to turn it into a full stack if I wish. I'm not just stuck with just using one small cabinet. I could actually connect more than one cabinet and really extend my ability to move some air. That would really make use of the full output that the amplifier has available as well. And this makes this as a really nice modular setup. I can go out to small practices with just the combo, but even with big gigs, I can actually connect this to a rather large cabinet and have a lot of volume available. And if it was a borrowed cabinet from a venue, then I still only go home with my combo and I can leave the big cabinet behind, which is another added bonus of this setup. Speaking of which, let's flip the combo around and we'll have a closer look at the back panel and some of the features available. Once again, a really nice clear layout. I know that I can pull the combo forward on stage and I can see my connections nice and clearly. On the left hand side here, of course, our mains input socket and a power switch, and underneath that we have the ability to select our regional voltage. So if I'm taking this little chap on tour with me, I know that if I go to a different country, I can select the correct voltage and this amplifier will work as intended. Moving across then, as I mentioned before, we have a professional speak-on output. I'm always glad to see a speak-on connector on the back of an amplifier. It stops us from accidentally using instrument cables instead of speaker cables to connect our speaker cabinets. Here we have a minimum load of 4 ohms. So as I mentioned before, because this amplifier can now handle a 2 ohm load with the speakers internally already, I can now daisy chain another cabinet on to the combo, but I have a 4 ohm minimum impedance instead of the usual 8, which is great news because I can plug in 2 8 ohm cabinets, one massive 8x10 cabinet if I wish at 4 ohms, and this thing will happily deal with the job. However, when we need to be very quiet and shut up, we have a headphones output as well, and we can see that here. Next to the headphones, we have a line out. Again, if I want to daisy chain combos together or I want to send my signal on to other devices, I can use this output. For inserting effects that I want to appear after my compression and EQ sounds, I have an effects loop. And then finally on the right hand side, for plugging into a recording device or sending my signal to front of house, I have a balanced line DI output. 2 switches here, ground lift. I would urge you to have a look at the manual if you don't understand or don't know what ground lift is, but suffice to say, this can be very useful should I get any strange buzzes on my signal going out to front of house on my recording device. Sometimes lifting the ground can help. And then finally, the post and pre-control for what's being sent out of the DI. That rounds it up for the back panel and indeed rounds it up for all of the features on Magni 502. The all-wood cabinet and neodymium speakers means that this unit is really easy to move around, and it comes with a nice heavy-duty handle on top that you can see. As I mentioned before, this combo weighs in at merely 15 kilos, so it's lighter than some single speaker cabinets, and we have an amplifier on board as well, and we have a severe amount of output, and we can also deal with 2 ohm impedance loads, which is, aside from the actual feature set, is actually a great selling point in itself. Magni 502 has a lot to offer on board, and I think we've got a really flexible unit here that you could use for a myriad of different situations. I especially like that we can plug it into more cabinets to move more air, but for practice sessions or small club or cafe gigs, this is going to be more than enough to cover all of those situations. A great clean tone, lots of lovely dynamic tones available, plenty of low end when connecting other cabinets, and a lovely top end sparkle from a really nice tweeter on board, not harsh at all. We've got a great combo here, and as I said before, I'd like you to go out and try it out for yourself and let me know what you think. But for now though, thanks ever so much for checking out this review. I've been Dan Veal, and you have been watching Bass Gear Magazine.